Um, well, I find one thing is that all mothers are quite unique, isn't it? Everybody has a different mom. You know, I don't know about your mom, but I'm pretty sure my mom is very different from yours. And we can always say that mothers um, is one of a kind. You know why? Because we are one of a kind, right? We are all created by God in a very special and unique way. And um, from a very special and unique person, was our mother. Okay? And today we're going to uh, explore a life of a mother. Her name is Hannah. Okay? She is the mother of the prophet Samuel. Now, prophet Samuel is we were on the series, which we will conclude in the next week. It's the it's about the Jewish people, the Israelites uh, being led across the Jordan River and stay and come to this land of milk and honey, right? And God says that there are other gods. And last week we talked about God says the way we want to you want to drive them out, but before you do that, give them a chance for peace. Okay, so sometimes that's a very important verse to me because a lot of times I read the Old Testament, I feel the love of God is so intense. He is not only a stern God, but he's a very loving God. And so Israelites, were warned, but at the end, regardless we were warned, we still make a mistake, right? So Israelites actually were scattered, and God raised judges to lead them. And the last judge name is called Samuel. Okay, before coming to the great king of Israelites, King David, and this is a very important person called Samuel, and we're talking about the life of his mom. Her name is Hannah, and in Samuel, first chapter, talk about her story, and in the last few verses, she said, "I pray for this child, and the Lord has granted me what I asked of him." Okay? And it's basically she doesn't have a child, and she prayed, and God gave her the child. So right off, we know that God has given us the gift of life through the mothers. Right? This goes without saying. Okay? And regardless how different our mothers are, there's one thing that's very common is that they gave us our lives. Okay? They gave us our lives. There's a 9-month pregnancy. If you sometimes you go back to Asia, they always count one more year than your birthday. We're here, we count our birthday, and that 1 year anniversary is 12 months after, but we always count that 9-month pregnancy as 1 year. That's so important and precious, right? We are already formed in the womb of our mother. Psalm 139 says that for you, you created my innermost being, and you knit me together in my mother's womb. And we think about God. Life is given by mother, but it is actually given by God through our mothers. Right? It's given by God through our mothers, because God knows us when we were still inside, the wombs of our mother. And so life is a gift through our mothers. And so this Mother's Day, we want to take that perspective, okay, that we celebrate the love of mom is actually celebrate the love of God through our moms. Okay? We are celebrating the love of God because He is the one, is the author of our life, is the creator of our life. He's the sustainer of our life. Okay? And He gave us the best gift, who is our mother. And our mothers is the best gift that God has given us. He not only gave us life, but He go way beyond that. Mothers nurtures us in a way that you can never be able to pay back, right? When you were young, that she, basically was your guardian, 24/7. Okay? There's no single hour the mom doesn't know where her baby is. Right? Isaiah 49 says that can a mother forget the baby at her breast? The mother will not forget her baby. Okay, I used to have there's a very interesting story that one Bible study small group I went. One day we have we know a guy that who is very young and very energetic and got married, and they have a little baby, and one day that we just have a very exciting discussion, Bible study, right? And at the end of the night, then, all of a sudden, this husband and father took off. He totally forgot his family, and his wife and his child. And so they were looking for him. And said, "Oh, he already come." And we called him. He said, "Oops, I forgot my kids and my wife." And that could happen to guys, but not to a mom. I promise you, it would never happen to a mom, okay? A mom would never forget, her baby. That's for sure, okay? Many people would testify that here. And as we grow, we understand that, there's a lot more to just giving birth to a life. There's a lot more to this nurturing thing, to this helping him or her grow up, trying to establish the first steps and many different stages of life and all that things. So mother is the person that we will never forget in our lives. Okay? And so God gave our lives through mothers. That's the first thing we learn from 1 Samuel, is that Hannah wants to have a child so bad, and God gave her the gift and let her have this child, her son called Samuel. Okay, and what does she want for her son? When we read the story on, we found out that the next verse says that, "So now I give him to the Lord, for his whole life he will be given over to the Lord," and he worshipped the Lord. Samuel worshipped the Lord there. Okay? And you would think that Hannah is actually, if you read the story, he is one of the two wives of her husband. Okay? And the other wife has a lot of children. So speak louder in that society. Okay? And Hannah doesn't have a child, but her husband loved her. Okay? And so, in her prayer, she asked for the Lord to give her a son. And once the son was given to her, you know what she did? She offered him to the Lord. Okay, his total life to the Lord. It's not like she's going to raise a son, so he will grow up and become successful, and she, the mother, will be taking share the glory or share the success. It's not that. Hannah offered Samuel to his whole life to God. Okay, and in prior verses says that there will be all the days of his life will be with the Lord, and no razor would ever be used on his head. He also said that my son is not going to go to barber for life. You know what that means? That doesn't mean that I wish he's a hippie or something, right? She is wishing that her son will forever be the Nazarenes. There's a in Numbers chapter 6, if you have time, you can go through that. There's a vow that you give as a person that you're going to be separated for God, consecrated, separated for God for a period of time. that you are not going to do certain things, including not do any barber job. Okay? You're going to keep your hair long. And Hannah is saying that Samuel will do this for his entire life. She's offering her son to God entirely. Yeah, it's not just a 2 years period or 10 years. It's like from when he was weaned. You know what weaned is? It's about. It's not exactly know the exact days, but it could be 3 years old. Okay, when you're 3 years old, you're out of in our days out of diaper, right? In their days, it's a little bit out of the the breastfeeding, and the kids are more independent, and you become weaned. Means that at that time, Hannah offered Samuel to the Lord for life. It's not for her. Okay, this life is not for her. This life is for God and for him to serve God, to grow in the Lord. Okay? So later on, Prophet Samuel become a powerful servant of God. Okay? Become a very powerful servant of God. And when we read on the First and Second Samuel, we are sort of sequentially walking through the Old Testament. If you don't notice, and we have come to a very King, before King David time. Okay, so we're thinking about Hannah, this mother. How have our mothers, been doing with us, and how we have been doing as a mother. And sometimes we want to think about that. I mean, this especially today, we want to think. I would say most mothers want the best for their children, right? In the way they know how. Right? That's why there's always, all these different classes, right? Different things, and we actually have a hard time. I mean, the other day, that somebody asked me, "Oh, should I send my kids to that, or learn this, or insist on this?" And I said, "I don't know." If you, if for me, if it's like, if you sort of use a little bit force to ask to get your kids into for music, and or art, and they may or may not appreciate it. Okay, but that may or may not be important, because when they grow up, they may or may not come to you and say, "Why didn't you push me?" Okay, so it's an art. Okay? When you raise your kids, it's an art. You don't really know. There's always choices and choices. You don't know which one is best. Okay? Should I push him to have good grades? Or should I not push him to have good grades and have, build all the leadership? That's more important. Should I push in that direction? Or should I provide opportunity for him or her to grow in this area or that area? We don't know, but we're all making decisions every day, isn't it? Right? We are making the best decision we know how. The mothers are making the best decisions they know how for their kids. But it may not always work, because mothers are human beings, right? Like we are. And a lot of times their judgment call is out of hard to love us, but, we don't really know. Sometimes it can backfire. Sometimes it actually is the only thing that gets us going, right? So when when the kids are little, it's easier, right? When the diaper is wet, you change it. There's never wrong with that, right? You protect him or her, your baby, not to get sick, not to go to the street. Don't cross the street without me. All that thing is always right, but when they grow up, it's harder, right? When should they start to date? Okay, wow, that's hard. You guys haven't been there, okay? And when are they allowed to come home? Where's the curfew? Should I impose curfew when? Or all these things will start to happen, and some of you will have the joy to make that decision. Okay, but what I'm trying to say here is that this mother, Hannah, she made that one decision that she knows for sure and well, is that her son will serve the Lord. Okay? Her son will serve the Lord. Her son will know the Lord and will serve the Lord. And out of the love of the mother, this is the best thing for her, for him. Well, that is actually pretty mind-boggling, because in our society, how many of you would say, when I give birth to this child, I wish that him to be a pastor when he grows up? And I'll be honest now, okay? Not many, okay? And, well, including my own mom, right? I have to say that, including my own mom, And my mom always also have the best of me. Okay? She would actually sacrifice. She would sacrifice. She was a elementary school teacher, and my father is a federal employee, and we are okay family, but it's not very well off. But she would say, my son needs to go to the best school, the private school. Okay? And that's very expensive at that time, and according to their income. And they sent me to the private school. And I don't know if that make it better or worse, I don't know. Okay? But the important thing is that they try so hard. Okay? They try so hard. And so when I, later on, when I was called to be a pastor, and I went back to my mom, my mom said, are you sure? Okay? Are you sure you want to do this? Okay? My dad was a good man, but he did not give my mom a very good time, in a good marriage. And after he passed early, my mom remarried to a Christian man 10 years after, and they lived very happily for 20 years. And that's the greatest gift that for my mom and for myself. But still, it's one thing that you become a Christian. The next second thing is different thing that you approve your child to be, a full-time pastor. I just use that analogy. Okay. That is very different, right? Because, there's a lot of practical things about being a pastor, right? And so, at the end of, most of you know that my mother just actually passed away, okay, a couple months ago. And I was very blessed to be able to be with her a lot of times before she passed. And at the end of the time that we were together, she finally feel good about me being a pastor. Okay? She actually feel good about me being a pastor. She is also very old, and this how do you say that? The desire of success actually faded a little bit, right? But also, she witnessed that I am happy with what I'm doing, and I'm sure what I'm doing, and she wants the best of me. And at that time, she was convinced this is good, and she liked that. I thank my mom for that I'm being able to serve God. Okay, she didn't raise a problem for me to serve God, and I was able to serve God, and without her trusting in me, and carry on until later on understand and accept, okay, and let me serve God this way. It is the mother that we should thank. The mother, not every mother is like Hannah, right? That who knows God so well, and knowing that God, the relationship with God, serving God, is the best thing that you can have in a life that is so short. Okay? And Hannah is delighted to see Samuel serve God in his entire life. Okay? And it is us today that we will have a relationship with God. we also need to thank Mother. Not only give us birth, but also some of your mothers are Christian. They are blessing you to have close relationship with God. Some of your mothers are not Christians, but they're giving permissions. Right? They're giving us permissions. They're giving you permissions to have relationship with God, to serve God. And for that, we want to thank all our mothers for that. Okay? And after Hannah says that we are, he is going to be serving you, serving the Lord for his whole life. For his whole life, he's giving over. Not only he doesn't claim any ownership of his son anymore. No, Lord, this is your child. This is your son, and I'm giving it over. And we saw that. Next thing he said that, and he worshipped the Lord there. This is not she, okay? And sometimes I confuse with he and she, but this is not here. It's black and white here. It says he. That means Samuel, right? Samuel worshiped God there. Can you imagine that a 3-year-old started to worship God? Okay? So maybe you're holding a 1-year-old baby. Just imagine, 2 years later, the baby will start to worship God. How can that possibly happen? How can that possibly happen? Well, it can happen if the mother worships God. Okay. Well, I'm talking about mothers. So Father's Day, we will talk fathers, right? But mothers worship God. That's why the 3-year-old toddler would worship God if mother worshipped God. Right? Samuel was just weaned. We talk about the weaned, could be just 3 years old, maybe a little bit older. Okay? But Samuel became a worshiper at this young age. And he was okay. He was okay to stay with the priest for his life. Can you imagine that? You raise your kid 3 years old and you bring him to, a priest and he will be there and start to serve God and praise God without seeing moms. That's mind-boggling, right? 3-year-old. If we have Sunday worship here, the kids has any kids crying and what do they want? Mom, right? But not for Samuel. He is already developed to a status that he can worship God and be willing to, stay with the priest to worship God. He has his mom to thank because his mom worships God. And in my household, I have to say that my children worship God. And not because this is Mother's Day, but I would say that most credit goes to the mother, okay? It's not because of the dad. Dad is more like big picture, right, theological guy. But mom is the one who, lead them to prayer, lead them to do devotion. And that's in my household. And so my children grow up. We don't tell them to worship God, but they worship God. And they bring their friends to know God. And this go without any requirements from the household. My household actually have not many rules. There's only one rule is that we take turn wash dishes. Okay, that's about it. You have to do that. You take care of your own thing. Okay? Other than that, everybody has to wash their own clothes. That's all another rule. But you can do it whenever you want to. Okay? So that's fine. So our family doesn't have much rules. But I really noticed that the kids really follow what parents do. If the parents read, they read. If parents watch TV, they watch TV. If parents watch iPhone, they do that from 1.5 years old. Okay? Whatever they do, you can forget about what you say because it actually just for reference. It's basically what you do, what you think. But the kids will forgive us because we're also human, right? We some mothers is like a lot of stress they will vent. Right? And that's very normal, okay? Kids sometimes understand that. But don't you ever think that when you say something, you think it's right, but you don't do it, and they will think it is right, and they will do it. Never happened that way. But kids will do whatever they think is right or, impress on them. And if you want to lead your children to be a worshiper, you need to worship God. That's the only way. There's no way that you can say enough to talk your child to be a worshiper, and while you don't worship God. You have to worship God yourself. Okay? And of course, now we become a Christian. Now, our mothers don't always worship God. We come from different culture, right? And there's a lot of old religion and all that. But it's all the more important for us to see that, the blessing of the Lord is generational. Sometimes it takes many, many generations for the blessings to go deep. Okay? And you and I, if you were the first generation Christian, then we have a great start. Okay? But that's only a start. If you live long enough, you're going to see your children, your grandchildren, or even spiritual children, spiritual grandchildren. You can see them grow and flourish, will be much stronger than you and I have been. And that is the bless that we can bring to our children. And that's the biggest bless God will bring to us. God will bring to us. Okay? And so when we serve God, we need to remember our mothers. Gave us life. Lead us in many ways. And then we may be able to think about how we can lead as a mother of faith. So lastly, in Samuel, the second chapter, see, Samuel's mother, Hannah, has two prayers. One is very important. One is to pray for a child. Second thing is her prayer here. And she prayed, my heart rejoices in the Lord. I just take 2 lines from 1 and 2. There's no rock like our God. Okay. How does a child know that he is loved? The child knows that he is loved first by their mother, right? When the child was, the cord was cut, the first thing is that bring to the breast, right? Still feel the heartbeats that he or she is so familiar with, right? And the mother and child connection is the first thing. I have this privilege, very scary privilege, to be in the delivery room for my children. Okay? And it's a very challenging experience, but it's actually very precious. You see the child just out of the womb of your wife and just being delivered. Okay? And I don't know, some of fathers may faint, and then and brought to it's being wiped and brought to the chest of the mother. And the mother, the first thing mother, regardless of how many hours labor, Jane has the first labor was 23.5 hours, because 24 after the water break. Okay, 24 hours she's going to go to C-section, and Victor waited for the full hour to come out. Okay, and she was like exhausted, totally exhausted but when she saw Victor, it's the biggest smile. So it's like, baby, I love you when I first see you. As a mother to a child's love is like, regardless how tired she is, regardless how extended that she is, she loves this baby. And that's the first signal that the child gets. That he or she is loved, okay, cared for, safe, you know. And when the child grow up, you know, regardless how outside world is, when he or she comes home, and if she still receive this, I love you at the sight of you, then he or she has the place to fall back on in his entire life. My mom loves me. Okay, regardless the world turned upside down, my mom loves me. She will stand to the end to my life. She would exhaust all her means for the benefit of me. And if a mother knows God's love, the love of her child will be more unconditional. Because moms are human beings. We are all sinners, right? We can still have our own agenda or our own bias or own worries or own this and that. We fail to give our children this unconditional love. You know, that he or she needed so much when they were young. And not only when they're young, they continue to grow up. Everybody needs this from their mom, right? Mom, we need to love our children unconditionally. It's not that we don't discipline. Actually, part of the unconditional love is to discipline them. Lead them to the right path. Don't be afraid of the consequences of being rejected. That's how you give yourself away to love unconditionally. Is whatever is good for you, I know is my command. Okay? And we know that what is the best for our kids. It is not that he or she gain the skill to survive in this society. You know, our children would have the gift from God and be at the state or be in the society at the places that he or she's supposed to be. You don't need to make him learn, calculus at 5 years old. You know? When he or she is 18, he will do it, and he will get it, no problem. You know, you don't need to tell him accounting, count the money. Sometimes it's good to help the parents to really help kids with the skill here and there, life skills here and there. But it is not that those skills going to change his or her life to the better. Okay? The thing that really changed our kids to the better is that if our child have God in them, do they know God? Do they know God as we do? Can I, as a mother, can I say this? My heart rejoices in the Lord, and there is no rock like our God. I depend on no other. So when the child grows up, when he or she had different, encounter different situations, he knows who to turn to. Even though you passed, even though you are frail and old and cannot help, they will say, God is my rock, and I rejoice in the Lord. And I will be able to make judgment based on that love. Okay? That love of God that passed down from my parents' generation to me, I'll be able to hold on to it. So it is the best gift for a child. It's not a trust fund. Okay? A trust fund actually is very dangerous for the child. The best gift for a child, it is not a pass to Ivy League. Okay? That's a different life. He or she may do it or may not do it. Don't force it. It would happen. But you want to lead him to the love of God. So he or she will know that regardless what life brings to him or her, he or she is loved. There is value for being just him. Okay? This value is that he or she not only is your mother's son or your father's daughter or your uncle's niece, but more importantly, you are the child of God. You are created by the Lord. Okay? He knows you when you were in the womb of your mother. He knows who you are. He knows how to love you. He gave us mother to love us. And you have this intrinsic value. And this is the one thing that you need to drive home every single day in your child's life. That you have value. Okay? You are worth more than the world. You are worth more than the world. And you are worth more than the world's problem. Okay? Maybe you are facing financial problems. You are bigger than that. You are bigger than being able to live a comfortable life. Because a child of God live abundant life. May not be described by the world, but it is rich, abundant, strong, peace, joy, glorious, reflecting who is in us, our Lord Jesus Christ, the Son of God. So a child learns to that they're loved and with the value, and they also learn to live their life by the strength of their parents. We are going to struggle before our children, regardless. We cannot hide it. If you have a financial problem, you'll worry. Your family will sense. Okay. If your mind is not in the family, your children will also know. But the children want to see how we struggle. They don't want to see a perfect family that never struggles. Always take away the problem. Always not dealing with the problem. The precious thing that they want to learn in life is how you deal with the problem. It's instead of how the problem being removed from them. How you deal with problem. How you deal with the loved ones that seriously ill. How you deal with the huge disappointment of your investment being washed away. How you handle that? How you handle that being, threatened, mistreated. All that thing, they want to learn from you. And you may not do well, but that's a thing. That if you count on God, or you panic and do not do the things that is not wise, we need to know that there is no rock like our God in our life. And when you have that, we are able to pass on. We are able to pass on the blessing to our children. So a child is blessed to have a mother who leans on God, who loves them unconditionally. And that is the greatest gift that we can bring to our children. And for a church family, for our spiritual children. Okay? These aunts and uncles are the most precious, aunts and uncles, the most precious adults when these children grow up. You are the wonderful gift that God has brought to this world for them. To also worship God together. Live a life that's tough, but let Jesus be our rock and live it out. And they saw more of you. And they are loved and they are strengthened. So this Mother's Day, we thank God for His love. His love through all our mothers who has either encouraged us or permitted us to be here as a worshiper of the Lord. And we ourselves want to make a decision to be this godly mother This mother, godly mother means that a mother who knows well of the love of God. We want to be the godly mother, godly father, godly uncle, godly aunt for our next generation. And that is the best way to celebrate Mother's Day. Let's pray. Lord Jesus, we just want to thank you. Because of you, we know how deep, how wide the love of God is for us. Thank you for your blessing pouring on us through the mothers. Our mothers are called to sacrifice for us, to labor for us, and to be the one that who love us unconditionally and be the example of the life that's given by you and follow you, and the one that we can learn from, that you lean on, that the mother lean on you to live there every day, God. I pray for the mother to be encouraged by the story of Hannah, how she, as a woman with no children, can give away, offer her only son to the Lord. And I encourage, and I pray that for the brothers and sisters who don't have children, asking for a gift of children, or just like in the different stage of life, I pray that we also are together. We know that we are together to raise a generation of children of God, and that we are able to bring the blessing of the mother and the father to these children of yours, God. Thank you, God. Bless